First one, and it's the one that's kind of surprising to a lot of folks. And that's freshman Cedric Surratt could be the starter at left guard over Nick Sharp. How do you see that playing out?
Yeah, I wouldn't say I'm too surprised. I think I'm more surprised just because many times you don't see a freshman being able to win a starting job right away, especially in the SEC, which is a line of scrimmage league. Like that's a difficult thing to do. But yeah, I think he came in and had a really strong spring, and coming out of spring, heard some really good things about him and his chances to land a spot. But I just wondered if he was going to be able to beat out the experience of some of those other older players like a Nick Sharp or whoever that could be. But I mean, you have to think that if he does indeed start and it comes to fruition, they obviously would have a lot of trust in him to go out there and do that, and I think he could. Like you look at him from his high school stuff at Gaffney, he plays mean. He's one of those offensive linemen. Like he probably should have been ranked a little bit higher than he was. After he got through that Shrine Bowl, he really kind of shot up their rankings, but he could have been higher. He was really good, and I mean, if he can come in and do that from a year one standpoint, that's going to bring a lot to South Carolina's offensive line.
Yeah, people don't. I mean, because some people, I guess there is some sort of market for early recruiting coverage, but he started at Gaffney as a freshman as head tackle. So if there's a freshman like experience wise, I mean, you've been to Gaffney high school football game. I mean, it's legit. I mean, the whole town there's pressure. Yeah, it's not a non-pressure high school situation. There's pressure at Gaffney. I would think that because he's been through that, that it's not the same thing as SEC, obviously, but it would be that he would maybe be prepared a little more than your average freshman. But the bottom line with him, Alex, is he's just good.
Yeah.
I mean, the bottom line, he's just really good. I mean, they brought in Nick Sharp. Remember, they signed Nick Sharp before Shed got there. I mean, and Nick Sharp doesn't have very much eligible. I think this is his only year, right? And he hasn't given up very many sacks. They love him. It's like The Sopranos. I freaking love him. Yeah, they love that guy. So if Shed starts, which I believe as of now, that's probably what's going to happen. Who knows what will happen in 17 days. It's because Shed is good, right? So
yeah, I think so. That's why coming out of spring, there was a lot of talk about him just and what he could be. And like I said, a minute ago, I kind of thought maybe he could slide into a starting spot coming out of spring, but I thought it was going to be one of those where you get into preseason camp and he's right there on the 2 deep, but maybe an experienced guy takes one of those interior spots. But I mean, like I said, that would show a lot of trust that they have in him to throw a freshman out there if that is the case that he does get to start.
Yeah, in situations like this where, I mean, like some years you're like, we got to start this true freshman because he's all we got. He's the best one in an ideal world. This backup would not be terrible and we wouldn't have to throw him out there, but we have to. Yeah. I mean, and I'm not saying that, Big Tree backing up Josiah Thompson last year was terrible because obviously he wasn't. But one thing Beamer did mention that maybe we missed last offseason, Tree and Travon Ball were kind of were injured most of the summer. And I remember when you guys went out to practice last year, first practice, he was out. Yeah. He was out for a little bit, so he was behind in shaping his body. And so the red shirt was good. By the time he had to go play, Tree was very good. So people don't realize that, yes, they started the year before, but when you're out for that extended period of time, Nick Sharp missed the spring too. So that's a lot of reps for Surratt in his place. And he just got better and better. But, but in most situations, there are two types of play of scenarios where you play true freshman on the offensive line. Number one, best you got, the other guy's a liability, or B, this true freshman's just better. And I think this case is much more the latter, that it's just better. And, if he can get in there and battle those guys, and I mean, how big is he?
I was looking at his high school. High school had him listed at 6'4", 300. I can look up what he is right now. But, I mean, based on, going off of what you had on your article the other day of what the starting five could potentially look like, that's a massive offensive line.
Yeah, I think he's listed at 336.
Yeah, 6'4", 336.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it ain't fat either.
Mm-mm.
I mean, he ain't.
No.
Well, I think that's one thing that helped him when he came in. Like, he was in a pretty good spot from a physical standpoint coming in from high school. And obviously, there's still work to be done there when you get in. But I think that kind of helped him get that part underway quicker, I guess, was just from a physical standpoint. He was in a good spot already.
Really good basketball player, too.
Mm-hmm.
A buddy of mine, I've told the story a million times. A buddy of mine saw him like dunk, kind of like Darius Gray. Did you see that where he dunked the other day? So, yeah, I mean, Gaffney guy, my same buddy that said that has a rule, like, be very careful about upstate offensive linemen. He doesn't think that's a very good spot for offensive line. But this may be one that hits from up there. The upstate, though, Phil, Gaffney, I guess that's kind of the border, the gateway to the upstate from the Charlotte area.
It's right there. I think technically Gaffney is in the grouping of upstate counties. But the one thing I like about Surratt is he was a two-way player in high school. This guy also played defensive tackle.
Yeah, he can move. Like that shows in basketball stuff and the defensive stuff. Like he can move around, and which means he's going to be able to get to the second level and things like that.
Yeah. Xavier in the Nana Sports chat box says, do freshman mistakes worry you guys a little, though? Well, like last year, you just had to live with Josiah Thompson's freshman mistakes. This year, they don't have to live with it. I mean, he goes out there and makes some mistakes. They're going to put his ass on the bench and put in Nick Sharp. I'm not being ugly. That's just the reality. I mean, they've got more depth. So to answer your question, Xavier, yes, normal circumstance, yes, but with this situation, nah.
He would also have Boaz Stanley right beside him too. Like that's what helped with how experienced he is.
Yeah, exactly. So
is it left or right that he's
left?
Left. Yeah.
So he would take Kamar Bell's place.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Upgrade.
Well, I think he's an upgrade there, right? Took the words right out of my mouth.
I may have been too hard on Kamar Bell. I don't know. Well, I just thought I don't know about this, but
well, here's the thing: is like so long as the freshman's mistakes are minimized, and not any more than what the mistakes we've seen out of some upperclassmen over these past few years in O-line play, then you're in a good spot.
Yeah,
and much like you said, you got a guy behind him.
Yeah, and even 2 years ago when they played Trevon and Tree as true freshmen, like that was obviously a little bit different circumstances as this. But I mean, you probably live with it a little bit. But I mean, even those guys, like they were ready to play for the most part. I mean, Trevon being a freshman All-American by some outlets, I think they know when these freshmen are ready to play right away. And I think they kind of have an idea for that.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. Next position battle. Brandon says, just let's say Rasul Faison's out. Who would be the starting running back? My opinion is Attaway.
Yeah.
But it's not that. I mean, what I was explaining to me, Attaway's probably the most complete back, 7th-year guy, was the backup last year. But Isaiah Augustov, Matthew Fuller, Jawan Howell, they've all had pretty good camps, I've heard. I mean, I've heard particularly Augustov in the last scrimmage and also Matthew Fuller. It's not to say Jawan Howell hasn't, but that's still pretty high on Jawan Howell. But so what say you about how that running back room is going to shape up? Taking Faison out of it, unfortunately. Not that I don't think – I mean, I haven't changed my opinion on this because I'm not impatient. I mean, my patience is wearing thin on it, obviously, because it's beyond like you're just being impatient. But I just can't see a world where they're going to do the wrong thing. But the NCAA does do the wrong thing sometimes. So let's just go beyond him. Let's not say he's not necessarily out, but after him, who would be the starter if he could not go?
I would go Attaway, just one from an experience standpoint, but also he's pretty good running back, as you mentioned, being kind of that all around guy. You saw it in the bowl game, and he actually mentioned in the press conference the other day that he was nowhere near 100% in that bowl game. He was wearing a boot 3 days before, took the boot off to actually go through Gamecock walk with the rest of the team. So yeah, he was nowhere near 100% in that bowl game, and he still had that long run. So I would lean him to be the number one if Faison is not available or eligible. But yeah, as you mentioned, Augustov, I think he's had a really good preseason camp so far, and that was big just because you wondered like just coming into the program, how quickly was he going to be acclimated to everything and learn the system. But it seems like he's picked it up pretty quickly and can be a guy that I think he and Matt Fuller, Jaworn Howell, whoever that be, would battle for those second reps or second team or second string reps, I guess, whatever. But I mean, I think Howell has had a pretty good camp too, but also I think Fuller had a really good scrimmage this past scrimmage, and that's something that you like to see just from a physical standpoint. I think he's one that he's always going to fall forward, and he's going to be one that's going to be a guy that I think can get those yards. And I think it was just now from a year two perspective from him, just being all the minute details from a running back standpoint, the pass blocking, blitz pickup, things like that. I think he's getting a better grasp of all that.
Yeah, I like those two newer guys. I don't guess they're younger. I hope they get some carries this year. I thought in the bowl, Jaworn Howell, everybody remembers the fumble, of course. The only time he fumbled all year. And it was on a pass, a catch. But I'd like to see those guys out there, especially if they can block. And, ideally, Carolina wins big enough on the opener, everybody gets carries, right?
Yeah, I mean, with Howell, the time that he got in last year, you can see there's some explosiveness there. Like he got through the line quick, and I think he's also really a physical running back too. Like he would put his shoulder down, and like you mentioned, I think the fumble for him gets remembered a lot. But I mean, he was gave them solid carries in that game, and I think could be a guy that could take the next step as well.
Yeah, I think right now to answer your question, Brandon, because I guess he asked who definitely would be behind Attaway. I misread that. I would go with Augustov right now after scrimmage one, but with running backs, it's kind of simple. If you're productive, the guys who are the most productive in practice in the scrimmage are the ones that are going to do it. What I was told about Fuller and Howell last year was, and then I kind of had a buddy mention it to me again that sort of knows what's going on. That getting in the playbook. Because they were so new and young, and Carolina's playbook last year was a little different than what was at SC State. But, hey, by this time you should know it, right? and know your assignments and stuff. But that's very intriguing. Very intriguing. Brandon adds he rewatched the game, and Howell is good.
Yeah.
So that's the deal there. But, okay, moving on, position battles. Back to the O-line. Right tackle. We've talked about Case and Henry before you got on. I like Case and Henry. Mm-hmm. Great interview by Case the other day. Yeah. But he's in a dog fight with Tree. Looks like Tree's not going to guard. I kind of started talking about that. I didn't know that it was realistic that I guess they're, in this situation too, they're going to play the best one right now. I'd project Big Tree to be the guy. That could change though. What say you?
Yeah, I mean, I would lean the same way. I think it's close. And I think the thing that, we talked about a lot with Tree was could he end up being just too good to keep off the field? And you've only got 5 spots to find for him there. And with a few already locked up that, he wasn't going to play. But I think, with Case and Henry being down some in the scrimmage from in the spring from an injury standpoint, I think that probably helped Tree get a little bit more reps there. And, I think he's one that, you saw what he could do at left tackle. You would think that translates really good to right tackle. So I think I would lean that way right now, but would probably have a pretty more clear picture on the starting 5. Really, a lot of these other position battles after the second scrimmage on Saturday.
Yeah, second one where the rubber meets the road, so to speak, on that, switching to the other side of the ball. I put a poll up yesterday, shake them up in a box and draw 2 out as far as the 2 starting D tackles. I voted Goodwine and Barrett, and that's a lot based on what you guys have seen when you've been out at practice since the spring, you and Hale and Whittle. And also that, Gabriel Brownlow-Dindy had a really good scrimmage. I think they're pleased with his progress. But until he does it, he hadn't done it. Goodwine and Barrett have played a lot of football around here. They're going to rotate a ton anyway. So I'm not sure that it matters other than pride. Maybe you do start Brownlow-Dindy to give him more confidence because that's been an issue of his. But I took the easy way out, voted Monkel Goodwine and Nick Barrett. What's your latest on that? What's your latest thoughts?
Yeah, I think you'd feel pretty good about Nick Barrett for sure, just from everything that's being said about him from a leadership standpoint, but then also what he's been able to do to take the next step in his game. But then, that other spot, you could see Monkel Goma. I think, as you mentioned, could see Gabriel Brownlow-Dindy be that guy. But, I mean, as you said, it's not going to matter, especially early on. They're going to rotate so much. I wouldn't be surprised if it's Gabriel Brownlow-Dindy starting in that. But also, I think, all those guys are going to get equal reps, especially early on, especially once they try to figure out what their rotation is going to be like.
Yeah. I think in the opener, you're kind of looking at beef, right? Like I feel like, and I have no idea because who knows what Montgomery's going to do. But, I think running the ball is going to be what they try to do first and foremost and primarily in Atlanta. And with that, you're going to want some size in there.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that Gabe is not lacking.
Nope. Gabe's a big old boy. They're good one, 6'4", 315.
He's still a big guy. I mean, these guys are.
Yeah, Oscar Adaway was talking about him the other day and like what he's like, you walk by him and you're like, who is that? Because he's talking about his size and how he looks. Like he's a big dude, and I mean you've seen him from a press conference standpoint, even and like when he gets in pads, like he's huge.
It was Adaway, dude. I wrote in my article that it was Judge Collier. I need to go fix that. I just realized I made that stupid mistake. Pooh. All right, I got some editing to do when I get off. So safety, David Busey, Peyton Williams, your thoughts?
I'd go Peyton Williams right now being the starter, but I think it's close. Like I think David Busey's had a really good from spring even to preseason camp. Like I think both of those guys are going to play a lot, especially Virginia Tech and early on. But I'd lean Peyton Williams just from an experience standpoint, but also we've talked about it a lot on here. Like whenever his number's been called, he's produced. So I think Shane Beamer mentioned that he was going to get the first reps and all that early on in practice. So I'd lean Peyton Williams right now, but both are going to play a lot.
I think Luke Doty being the backup quarterback is a done deal. Yeah. I'm not even talking about that anymore.
It kind of feels like that's been pretty consistent.
Yeah, I think that's the deal there. All right, so today's poll question was about the kicker. Mason Love or Max Kelly. Kelly's done a really good job kicking from what I'm told since he's been there, the true freshman from Gallatin, Tennessee, in the Nashville area. Mason Love, around here, we call him the leg of destiny, right? So
that's right.
How do you see that shaking out? That one's hard for me to call. I don't even care. I mean, I care, but I don't know anything about kickers, so I leave that to Whittle most of the time.
Yeah, I don't know which way to call that one right now, honestly. I think with Max Kelly, like if he would have been in the spring, maybe it'd be easier to say him. But also, as you mentioned, he's had, I think, been pretty good so far. But the thing is, like, Shane Beamer kind of talked about in the spring, like, it's not ideal to have Mason Love doing, more than like all three things, punting, kicking, and all that. But I think they do it if they feel that's the best thing that they're going to do. But, I think Max has had a pretty good camp. It's just going to be, do they want to try the true freshman out there? Because you can simulate, all the suspense and, the intensity of kicks like that. But when you get into Mercedes-Benz Stadium with thousands and thousands of fans watching the lights on, it could be a little bit different. And not saying you can't do it, but it can be tough for true freshmen.
So you said you answered, I don't know. If this were the Hunger Games, you would be killed.
No, going into the second scrimmage, I'll go is going to be Mason Love.
Yeah, that's right. You can't make any firm calls until after the second.
Yeah, I agree. I'm giving Alex a hard time. It's the smorgasbord after all.
That one's the one that I don't know which way, honestly, right now.
I don't know. I mean, nothing. I mean, I don't know. I feel kind of like Lenardi with the bracketology. If I could get 98.7% right, Watch him come out in a three-man front, though, on defense, and it's all cattywampus. And
it's going to be
Brian Thomas Jr. doesn't really start technically, and you're like, no.
Yeah. It's going to be the 3-3-5, and they're going to go under center with two tailbacks at the first offensive play, and nobody's going to expect any of that crap to happen. Although I do think
probably throw a fullback in, throw Maurice Brown at fullback in there or something like that.
I fully expect to see more of that. And Lenore has confirmed it on Tailgate Talks that there is going to be some under center stuff. Mm-hmm. Not
they've
letting
been
too
kind
much
of in
McCann
open
out of
practices
play.
when they do like quarterback center snaps. You see some of that, the under center stuff, and you saw a little bit of that I think previously, but I think you've seen a little bit more of that too.
If you
Yes, sir.
see, just to keep on special teams real quick though, it's like, do you? I mean, I know you don't burn a red shirt for a quarterback potentially who could do very good things and very big things at this university, so that he could be the holder.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
as a weapon, Cutter Woods being the holder for place kicking, is that, do you think that's going to be an option they've explored? They obviously have, because I know they've repped him there.
Yeah. I've thought about that, but it's just the whole red shirt part of that. Do
Yeah.
you want to burn the red shirt for him to be a holder and maybe do 2 or 3 trick plays or something like that, or fake field goals? Like it's just, if he's willing to do that and the coaching staff's willing to do that. I'm sitting here trying to think of who else could do it. If Mason Love's the kicker, I mean, maybe it could be like a Max Kelly does the holding or something like that. It's just with the quarterbacks now, obviously that used to be a pretty big thing, but with that 4-game red shirt rule, I think that's something that you start to see less of.
Max Kelly's a big old kicker too. I mean,
yeah.
I worry with the little guys. Like you have these smaller kickers, right? I don't know.
Oh, I got scared every time Elliott Fry would line up back there. I'm like, oh dear Lord, nobody hurt him.
I mean, the one I could think that could do holding, and I haven't heard that this is the case, but maybe Luke Doty could do that just because he's going to be playing.
He's on all the special teams. I don't know that he won't be a kick returner too this year, which is intriguing. Yeah. Not as intriguing as Nick Harbor returning kickoffs, but which I have a gut feeling about that one too. But we'll see. I don't mind burning Cutter Wood's red shirt, just to be honest, as long as he's cool with it.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's a lot more fun for the backup quarterback to do that than to not, because you get to be in the game and there are things you can do. So anyway, that's all good. So what are you thinking other than the canned? Hope they're not injured. No major injuries on Saturday. What are you hoping to hear from your contacts and stuff flowing out of the second scrimmage? I tell you, I'm looking for no injuries and just a continuation of a lot of the good stuff we heard from the first one. It was really a lot of, I mean, I said on coffee this morning, I'm like, you almost wait. A lot of Gamecock fans are going to be like freaked out a little bit and waiting for the other shoe to drop, because, you rarely get a stream of intel coming out of a first scrimmage where like there's answers everywhere. There's position battles. It's not perfect. And if somebody watched it, they'd probably be like, this is awful, because most scrimmages are. But I was surprised, to be honest. I thought there would be more issues that were clear, glaring issues you could discern from the scrimmage. But I'm just kind of looking for a continuation. What are you looking for?
That's exactly what I was going to say. Obviously, number one, no injuries. But, I think in these past few years, that what you wanted to hear in the spring or the second scrimmage was the offense took a step forward.
Yeah.
And just because the defense was so far ahead. But as you heard, we heard like in that scrimmage from the first scrimmage, like it's, and Shane Bieber mentioned this publicly too, like the offense got off to a pretty good start, and then the defense responded and held them on a goal line zone type of thing. So you heard really good things about both sides of the ball. And I think that's a little bit different than it was in the past, just because you kind of heard like, hey, the offense, as you expected, was going to be a little bit behind in the first scrimmage in previous years. Let's see if they can take a big step forward in scrimmage too. But it's kind of different this year. I think both sides kind of did some really good things in that scrimmage. And, I think maybe from a special team standpoint, the one thing you want to hear is just maybe, continue to hear more consistency from a field goal standpoint. Shane Beer mentioned they punted the ball really well. So just really just consistency all around from what you heard from the first scrimmage.
I like it, the pre-snap penalties and things like that. I would say turnovers, but they didn't turn it over. So maybe the defense needs to force some turnovers.
Yeah, it's one of those things that's good for one side,
one half dozen of another. But the defense, I was told, defense did get the best of them. That's not uncommon, as long as the offense isn't going up and down the field against the defense. That's when you worry. Mm-hmm. But also that the offense wasn't like other, and a lot of that has to do with the line. What I was told, I reported, was the line is ahead of, at this point, of any other line they've had. They're certainly bigger, Alex.
Yeah.
I mean, these are some big dudes. Do they look that big in person, like when you see them at eye level?
Yeah, it seems like from another step forward from a physicality standpoint for them, and just going off of your like the projected 5. One thing that stands out about that group too is like they all have extra eligibility too. It's not just 1 year guys like you kind of had this past year with Vershawn Lee. You knew he was done. Torstell, you knew he's done. Kamar Bell, you knew he's done. Like all those guys, if that's how it ends up being, have more years of eligibility past this one.
So Boaz Stanley has another year.
I think so. I need to check on that. I say he is. Now that I say that, I need to make sure. But at least not the 4 of those guys would have.
Yeah, I thought he did. Nick Sharp does not. But I thought everybody else they brought in. Boaz. Nolan Hay has 2 to play 1. Nolan Hay could technically redshirt and come back next year. I know Newsome has multiple years.
Yeah,
Boaz should have one as a redshirt junior. Yeah, he has one more year.
Bo's got one.
Yeah, he played at Georgia Military 2022, redshirted 23, played all.
My goodness. Well, they're going to be able to. They'll be in pretty good shape 2026 offensive line as well. So.
And then, if they are able to land Darius Gray and next Friday, that's another 5-star coming in too.
The recruiting's been really good, and with Lonnie Teasley, I think this is a year where everybody's. I mean, there's no excuse for not having significant progress up front, and I think best case scenario for South Carolina, they look back on it and go, well, he just needed time to get his guys in, and not only that, get them developed. I mean, when I heard that about Marquis and Trevon Ball and Tree, because those are the guys everybody was kind of expecting to play last year, and they didn't. And so everybody's just kind of like, well, because I guess the expectation was those guys would go ahead and jump in and play. Well, sometimes it takes a little longer than that. 3rd year is when you really need to start doing it. It looks like, at least in the case of Trevon Ball and Big Tree, they're ready to get out there and take it to the next level. And they were able to do that physically in the summer because they were healthy.
Yeah, staying healthy has been number 1 really for the whole offensive line looking back to last year. But with Tree and Trevon, like I think you're probably going to see those starts they got as a freshman really pay off this year.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, my man. That was a great smorgasbord. LaDonna, man.
Start off right. Great.
That's right. Yeah.
It always starts off great with it on the smorgasbord. Alex, have a great time tracking down all the scrimmage intel this weekend. I don't envy you. Yeah. I know I'll probably do some myself. But
yeah, we'll see what we can do.
Yeah, see what we can do. All right, my man. Have a great week.
See you.
JC and Mad Dog Mully.